Allen Lund Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
Truckers for Troops started as a program to raise money to send care packages to our troops, which it still does. But in the wake of conflicts ending, the project has shifted part of its focus to our veterans through the Veterans Community Project, which is making rapid progress on its expansion plans. Landline magazine staff writer Ryan Witkowski spoke with the executive director of one of the new locations. Also on today's program, we're starting to see seasonal changes in the spot market with an increase in load volume. Landline Now's Ashley Blackford has the latest details from DAT on today's market update. Once again, this is the Truckers for Troops Telethon. You can join or renew your membership in OOIDA at a discount. 10% of that goes into a fund to send care packages to our troops and support homeless veterans through the Veterans Community Project. To take part in Truckers for Troops, just call 816-229-5791 or go to ooida.com and click on Become a Member or Donate. Again, that's 816-229-5791 or go to ooida.com. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today. A coalition led by OOIDA is urging the Senate to pass truck parking legislation. It came in the form of a letter to the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee signed by OOIDA and 20 other industry stakeholders leading up to a Tuesday hearing on highway safety. In it, the groups expressed support for Senate Bill 1034, the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act, noting that adding safe places for truck drivers to stop and rest is above all else a safety issue. The lack of parking also has negative implications for congestion and the supply chain, the letter says. Passing the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act would go a long way toward fixing the problem. The coalition says investing $755 million over a 3-year period toward the construction of free, publicly available truck parking would have far-reaching benefits for truck drivers and the supply chain as a whole. The bill currently has a dozen co-sponsors in the Senate. A companion piece in the House has 41. Truck parking promised to be in the spotlight during Tuesday afternoon's hearing, but as of our recording time, the hearing was just getting started. We'll have all the details on what happened on our show tomorrow. Meanwhile, the American Trucking Associations is turning up the heat on states to do something about the truck parking crisis. Letters recently went out to all 50 state governors, signed by ATA, the National Tank Truck Carriers, and the Truckload Carriers Association, along with each state's respective trucking association. The letters cite a U.S. DOT report which found that 98% of truck drivers routinely experience problems finding safe parking, often leaving them with no other option but to park in unsafe or unauthorized locations. They're asking governors to prioritize truck parking when taking infrastructure spending into account, noting the various resources available to them courtesy of the federal government for a variety of projects, whether it be the construction of new truck parking capacity at rest areas or increasing capacity at other locations like way stations and commuter lots. The national average for a gallon of diesel went down again last week. The Energy Information Administration's weekly report has the average down nearly 9 cents last week to $4.36, matching a similar drop the week before. All 10 regions in the EIA survey saw prices go down, led by the Rocky Mountains, where the average dipped more than 16 cents a gallon. Prices this week appear to be continuing the trend. ProMiles.com said Tuesday morning's average came in at $4.38 a gallon, down more than 8 cents compared to last Tuesday. As with the EIA report, ProMiles shows prices on the decline in all 10 regions nationwide. A 9% increase in load volume means a seasonal bump is starting on the spot market. Landline Now's Ashley Blackford has the details.
Load-to-truck ratios increased significantly across all 3 equipment types, according to DAT. Robert Rouse says the number of trucks on the DAT load board decreased by around 10.4%, but he added that a decrease of this size is more of an indication of a higher load volume.
When we look at reefer load-to-truck ratio, it was mainly boosted by Christmas tree, fall produce, and fresh turkeys and pork shipments ahead of Thanksgiving. Reefer load posts surged by about 24% week over week. Slightly higher than the increase that we've typically seen in prior years. Carrier equipment posts were down about 11% week over week, and that resulted in the reefer loaded truck ratio spiking by 40% up to 3.98. However, this is still one of the lowest reefer loaded truck ratios in the last 7 years.
National benchmark broker-to-carrier spot rates without fuel increased between 1 to 5 cents across all three equipment types. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Electric truck maker Nikola is having a year it would probably like to forget. In a news release, the company shed some light on the August recall of its battery electric truck. Nikola said it determined that the problem wasn't limited to the coolant manifold. Then after investigation, it decided to replace the Romeo packs on existing trucks with an alternative solution. The company has set aside nearly $62 million to make the repairs. They expect to begin returning repaired trucks to customers in early 2024. The result of the setbacks, though, negative revenue in the third quarter and no truck sales. But despite the problems, Nikola said it did receive an order for 47 battery electric trucks from one dealer. Maersk is laying off thousands more employees. The shipping giant already let about 6,500 people go this year and now plans to lay off another 3,500 in the coming weeks. Maersk says weak demand and lower freight prices are taking a toll. Its third quarter revenues were cut in half compared to the same period last year. New York State has launched a new campaign aimed at cutting down the number of commercial trucks striking bridges. A week-long enforcement campaign is now underway. The governor's office said bridge strikes throughout the state are causing public safety hazards, traffic delays, and damage to bridges. Through Saturday, New York State police officers will be patrolling areas that are prone to bridge hits in hopes of preventing collisions with semis and other oversized vehicles. Police also will work with commercial vehicle inspectors in those areas to coordinate enforcement efforts. The announcement of the enforcement campaign coincides with the formation of the Bridge Hit Mitigation Task Force, which will be passing out information about bridge strikes and how to prevent them. According to the state, there were a total of 808 reported bridge strikes across New York in 2021 and 2022 combined. The issue has become so prevalent that officials have proposed legislation that would place points on a driver's license for striking a bridge. You've got a few more days to get your vote in for one of 5 finalists for the Transition Trucking Driving for Excellence Award given annually to America's top rookie military veteran driver. 5 finalists are up for this year's honor. A short video on each driver is available on the website. The public voting is used by the selection committee as they make their ultimate choice for the next Transition Trucking Award winner, who will get a Kenworth T680 truck. Voting runs through Veterans Day, which falls on Saturday this year. The nation's 3 largest truck stops are offering up deals this week in commemoration of Veterans Day. At Travel Centers of America, that means a free meal for active duty military, veterans, and reservists. That offer is only good on Saturday. So too is Love's free food and drink deal for active duty service members and veterans. And Pilot has a similar deal in place for service members and their families, running from Friday through Sunday. To take part in any of the 3 special offers, you'll need to go through the respective apps of each truck stop. And finally, Trucker Path is out with a new survey, and this one is dedicated to eating and truck stops. The survey had just 3 questions. The first, with regard to where drivers are eating the food they buy at a truck stop, more than 41% said they usually eat at the truck stop restaurant, with 35% saying they get their food and eat it on the road. As for what they're eating, respondents were asked to rank the types of food they're typically looking for. A hot breakfast came out on top, followed by hamburgers or hot dogs and then sandwiches. And when it comes to groceries, 2/3 of drivers said they mostly buy beverages, followed by fruits and vegetables. Close to 300 people participated in this Trucker Path survey. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Next, Ryan Witkowski speaks with the executive director of one of the new Veterans Community Project locations. We'll be back in a moment. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. more miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Welcome back to Landline Now and the annual Truckers for Troops telethon, an effort to raise money to send care packages to our troops overseas and to support homeless veterans through the Veterans Community Project.
Thank you for all you do. Here from Missouri, we're all thinking about you every day.
Thank you for your service, and we appreciate you taking care of us.
I am so grateful for your sacrifice and your service. Thank you.
Truckers for Troops started as a program to raise money to send care packages to our troops, which it still does. But in the wake of conflicts ending, the project has shifted part of its focus to our veterans through the Veterans Community Project. The Veterans Community Project started in Kansas City, Missouri, but it's making rapid progress on its expansion plans with campuses either operating or getting ready to in 6 other U.S. cities. Landline Magazine staff writer Ryan Witkowski spoke with the executive director of one of the new locations.
Eric Gage, the executive director of VCP South Dakota, is joining us here today. And Eric, we were talking a little bit briefly about how things are going out in South Dakota, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But I did want to start with you in particular, because you are a retired, veteran yourself, and your path to VCP. Tell me a little bit about that and what kind of drew you to help serve those that help serve.
Ryan, first off, I want to say thanks for talking to me. I'll take any opportunity to talk about VCP to literally anybody who will listen. I'm originally from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and after high school, I joined the Air National Guard because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and it made sense. It's something Dad did and what Granddad did. So I joined up, was in basic training on 9/11, and my trajectory and plans very much changed as most reservists did. So I came home from basic training, immediately was mobilized, and over the course of my 12-year career in the Air Guard, I spent about 6.5 of it mobilized and bounced around a number of different locations here, stateside and overseas, deploying to support the global war on terror. During that time, I kind of lost my way. I started to struggle a little bit with, purpose and figuring out where my place was in my community. And started probably drinking a little bit more than I should have. And some friends taught me into going to school, using my GI Bill to, take up some of this time I had on my hands and hopefully find my new purpose there, which I did. While on campus at the University of South Dakota, I found my new community, which was the Veterans Club on campus, and rose through the ranks there. It really gave me that sense of purpose and drive. And upon graduation, I must have been doing something right because I was recruited by the National Headquarters for Student Veterans of America in D.C. and spent 5 years out in D.C. running national programs for the organization, helping other veterans find their place on their campus. After 5 years, moved back to Sioux Falls. My wife and I had a little guy, and we wanted to raise him around family. Got into real estate, kind of was over the nonprofit gig for a while, wanted to go out and make some money, which I enjoyed doing. But then I stumbled upon one of the founders of the national organization doing a talk here in Sioux Falls, and went and checked that out. And something he said in that speech spoke to me. And I cornered him after his talk and evidently left an impression on him because we kept in contact. And I interviewed and was hired for the executive director role a few months after that. So I came on here in Sioux Falls a year ago, June.
I think it's really interesting how you kind of, openly talk about some of your struggles, and you said losing your way a little bit. How has that maybe kind of helped you connect with some of the folks that you're trying to help?
It really has. Not only were we connected through our shared service in the military, but, there was many a days where if things had happened just slightly differently, I could have ended up in their shoes. If I'd, gotten pulled over on the way home from the bar one night, I easily could have started down that path. I found my way out through community, finding that thing for me. And I'm really blessed to be here to have the opportunity to help the veterans we serve find their new place in life.
transition from this place of being lost and being on the street and work towards whatever that end goal is for them, to find that new home and community for them.
Eric Gage, the director of Veterans Community Project in South Dakota, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, is joining us today. And we talk about who you're helping. And I think for a lot of people, when we think veterans, and I don't know, like I'm 41 years old, like when I imagine veteran, I think of like a World War II veteran or like a Korean War veteran. Like that's who comes to mind. And then when we had gone out to the Kansas City location and I had seen who was living in the homes, who was coming to the commissary days, and then, you know, the folks that were needing help, they were people that were my age and younger. And it just like, it was a light bulb moment for me. And I know like, there was a no duh moment. Like we're 23 years removed from 9/11. Clearly, we've got some folks who are older and moving on to different stages of their lives that have now, you know, served in the armed forces. But like it was a real like aha moment to me. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that it's not just, you know, older guys that are doing. I mean, it is men and women that are in their 20s and 30s that are needing your guys' services.
Oh, for sure. So it's one of those things, you know, 20 plus years of sustained combat produces a lot of veterans. Like it's just a nature of the military system. So those individuals are now, you know, ending up in the system that is our local communities. Some are finding their way, and unfortunately, some are not. It's also an interesting thing that we see here at VCP is about half, if not slightly more, of the individuals that we see utilizing our services, either through our Kansas City village or here, are Vietnam era. You know, they're individuals that they served during that period, and they're still struggling and still trying to find their way, even after we're so far removed from that conflict. But you know, there's these two large cohorts, and then there's, you know, individuals that served between either during the Cold War or, you know, during those periods after, because not everybody who served in the military served during a conflict. And just because they didn't serve during a conflict doesn't make them they're still my brother or my sister, and I'll still serve them however we can.
I do think that is one unique part about the Veterans Community Project is that it is not funded by federal funds or state funds. It's privately funded. And the reasons behind that is because it allows you guys to determine what a veteran is and isn't. And for VCP, that's anybody who's raised their right hand to serve. When you talk about what you're providing for these vets, though, it's not just housing. And I think that's the unique aspect of it. Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, for sure. So everybody, when they think of Veterans Community Project, they think of our tiny houses because that's what we're most known for. You know, they're that new, shiny, kind of sexy trend that's going on in America right now. We are so much more than housing. Like we provide wraparound services while people are here with us. So during their time here, we don't only give them that roof over their head, because, you know, giving a person a place to stay doesn't make them not homeless anymore. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the individual level so that they just, you know, don't end up back on the street as soon as they're done with their time here. So our case managers kind of head that up and work with them constantly towards goals that they help set to help, overcome whatever brought them to this place, you know, help get them to wherever their end goal is, whether that's getting into school or, you know, a retirement community, because we have veterans across the age spectrum in different places in life. And those wraparound services is what truly makes us unique.
Yeah, I think it's really cool too, just talking to some of the folks out here at the Kansas City location, how those services have kind of grown too and adapted, and they've continued to kind of take feedback and say, here's something we need. I know recently they started offering veterinarian services because a lot of these folks have, you know, canine companions that, you know, are their best friends, and they're not going to take a home. They would rather stay on the street than give up their dog. And I think some of these folks realized that and said, hey, we need to start welcoming in their animals as well. They have a cool little dog park there. How much of that has been kind of a collaborative experience with the other locations? Because I know VCP currently Kansas City is operating at full strength, but also breaking ground at, you know, 5 different locations in 4 different states. How much of that has been a collaborative process to say, hey, here's what's working for us here. Why don't you give this a shot?
Oh, it's entirely collaborative. So we are one VCP. And I interact with my counterparts at all the locations regularly. And we lean heavily on the experience of our village in Kansas City. They've been doing this the longest. Most of what we do day to day here, we start with what's working in Kansas City, and then we look at our local environment and we adapt it as needed. Because VCP not only has the mantra of doing what's right and not what's easy, but we also don't want to duplicate services anywhere we are. So what happens in Kansas City is a little different here in Sioux Falls, because in Sioux Falls, some of the services that they provide through their outreach program in Kansas City already exist here. So instead of recreating the wheel here, we just partner with those organizations and then build upon any of the areas that they might not be able to fulfill entirely. So we really have that collaborative way of looking at things, not just within VCP, but within all the organizations that we partner with.
Yeah, I think I spoke to Alicia, and she had told me that you guys look to complement services and not duplicate them. And to me, that's an efficient way to operate. I mean, obviously, you're trying to do the most good, but at the same time, it's not, it's not a race, it's not a competition. There's no scoreboard in this, and it's just nice that it's a nice efficient process that you guys are putting forward the thought process to. So it's definitely cool. But we talk about the village itself. We talk about those tiny homes. You guys cut the ribbon on the village back in May. You told me your first 3 veterans had moved in almost a month ago, September 28th. So I guess already a month ago. Mm-hmm. But I did get a press release on that, and you were talking about some of the reactions of the folks that were moving in. And I mean, that's got to be like, just listening to someone said, "Oh man, I can't believe I have my own set of utensils," and being able to cook for themselves again. Some of that has to be a big reason for why you do this, though, right? It's got to give you a good feeling.
Oh, it's huge. The level of appreciation that these individuals have. For some of them, they've been unhoused for a while and been in, tried different programs and been in other facilities. You don't have to be in a VCP village very long to realize it's a special place. We're not a shelter. We are a village, we are a community. And when those individuals, set foot in the village the first time or walked into their house the first time, every one of them had a different reaction, but those reactions were sincere. The different things they noticed, like the example you point out, the very first veteran who moved in, walked into his house and was looking through the kitchen cabinets and was just baffled, everything I need to cook for myself is here. There's food, there's utensils, there's everything. Others were awestruck, they went in and on their table was, a little gift basket put together by some local supporters. And it contained the things they liked, because when we asked questions about them during our interview process, we listened and use that information to prepare the house specifically for them. So on day one, they moved in and felt like they were at home. These handwritten notes or, special goodies that were just for them. Or one of our residents has a dog, and the specific treats for the dog and a bed for the dog were in the house when they moved in.
That's really awesome.
It's just, there was a lot of tears shed on move-in day when those first 3 individuals moved in, because it's been a lot of work to get us to this point, but it all became real in that moment, where everything that had built up to that moment.
You've been listening to an interview by Landline Magazine staff writer Ryan Witkowski with Eric Gage, the executive director of the Veterans Community Project location in South Dakota. Landline Now will be back in just a moment with more of that interview.
Thank you so much for your service and all the sacrifices that you have made in order for us to have our freedoms.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to Landline Now and the annual Truckers for Troops telethon.
Thanks to all the troops out there. Thank you for what they do. Thank you for keeping us safe. And we pray for you every day for a safe return home.
Before the break, we were listening to an interview by Landline Magazine staff writer Ryan Witkowski with Eric Gage, the executive director of the Veterans Community Project location in South Dakota. We now rejoin that interview in progress.
It's been a lot of work to get us to this point, but it all became real in that moment where everything that had built up to that moment, and they had been in some rough spots, even the day before we brought them in, and the level of safety and security and support they found. We are constantly hearing from those individuals about how this is a place they feel support. They've never felt this safe and part of something before. They know that everybody here is here for them to ensure that they're successful. And we're not here to dictate what success looks like. They dictate what success looks like. We then just hold them to their own plan and help arm them with the resources they need so they can meet those goals. It's different for everyone we serve. Like, we are very much not a one-size-fits-all model. What every person needs is very different because they're all different people. And the veterans we serve are just so excited that how different things are here than other scenarios they've been in.
Well, and I mean, you speak with anybody that works in social services, and that's one thing that, will kind of always come up is how dehumanizing homelessness is. And a lot of, poverty in general, it can have a tendency to dehumanize people and just make them feel like they don't have somebody who cares for them and is connected with them. And so to have a place that they can call their own home, they have a key to open that lock, they have their own things behind that door, and they know that they're supported in that community. It's got to be really, really special for you guys to be able to give to them.
Oh, it's huge. So about a week after the individuals moved in, one of our residents was sitting on his porch with a member of the staff, and they were just, having a conversation. And he mentioned that he's just a number. His whole life, he's been nothing but a number. He was a number in the military. He's been a number ever since. Just people are serving him because, that's how their funding works. And that's not how this works here. You're you. Like, we call him by his name. He's not a number to us. The number of veterans we have living in our village is not tied to our funding. Like, we receive no extra funding because he's here. He's here because of who he is. He's ready to take this journey with us. He's our brother. He's just part of this community. And up until that point in his life, he had never felt that. Seeing him come to that realization during this conversation was life-changing for him and life-changing for us who witnessed it, because seeing somebody who's devoted their part of their life to defending our country just think of themselves as a number, and everybody sees them as a number, and then realizing, like, no, dude, like, you're part of this community. This is home for you. And like, we look at you that way. Like, you are not a number to us. And just being present for that interaction was just, it fills my cup every day. Having that recharge every day is life-changing. And, our founders talk about this, and then I've come to acknowledge this too. Like, the first veterans we saved were ourselves. Like, that's why we do this. We work to help all of our brothers and sisters, but like, truly, like, I do this not just for them, but for myself, and to help me through all of my own issues and anything else that I need to do. Like, that recharge is huge.
I think a lot of that too, what you're speaking on is one of the big reasons that VCP has seen success, right? Like, I think that's the reason that Kansas City has transitioned so many people from being on the streets into the tiny homes. And in 14 months, they're living on their own, and they're capable of sustaining themselves, be it at a job and handling their bills and setting their own appointments and taking care of their responsibilities. Like, it's amazing not only to see it happen at the clip that it's happening, but in the time that it happens. And I think so much of it is what you speak to, that whole person approach. I know it's kind of a big buzz now, but like, that whole person approach of saying it's not just us trying to hit a quota and fill these numbers. It's us legitimately trying to help you. And that aha light bulb moment these folks have is something that you can't just sit there and tell somebody to have. They have to find that on their own. And it's just great to hear, a firsthand account of how that really kind of comes together.
Oh, it's incredible, the difference that VCP is. Like, I've talked to residents at the Kansas City Village during my early time before we had our village here. And you talk to folks that have been in any number of other scenarios, other entities that have been trying to help them. And everybody's appreciative of the help. But we're not just giving them that roof. We're looking at them as a person, giving them the things they need, the tools they need. And we're able to do that because of our private funded model, as well as because of the way we're designed. Like, we have no huge layers of bureaucracy. If one of my case managers comes up across a veteran that needs something, they have the authority to do that. The only person they have to convince is me. And I'm a pushover. Like, I'll back them to the end. So, like, they don't have to go through layers of bureaucracy and approvals and they do what's right for the veteran, and I'll find a way to pay for it. Like, that's just how we do things here. And, we're very blessed because individuals have and companies have backed us to give us that ability. But because of that, we're always out raising money, and that's just part of the game.
Well, let's talk a little bit about where that money's going, because there's still plenty of work left to be done on the village. 5 homes completed now. I know you guys have started on an additional 5, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So the 5 are completed and either in use or ready to be used. And then we have 5 that are under construction. They're being framed. They're getting close to being weather tight, which is good because winter is no joke here in South Dakota. It's 28 degrees outside, I think, right now. I
was going to say.
So we're hoping to get those sealed up before we get too much snow so that we can continue to work inside throughout the winter. But beyond that, over the next year and a half to 2 years, we'll build another 15 individual houses and build our village center, which is where we provide the services, where those outside services will come in to work with the individuals who live here, and where we have our fellowship space, a place for our community to come together and to share those community moments from everything from football games to holiday gatherings to graduations, where the residents graduate from the program here, and we get to celebrate as a community their transition to whatever's next for them.
I think it really speaks to what you guys do out there, that you invested in and worked hard to get the homes open before you even had a place to sit in your office. Like, that lets you know the type of, motivations that you guys are working from.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, like, it's been a hustle. We want to get as many of our brothers and sisters off the street as quick as we can in the most responsible way possible.
Well, and you tell me a little bit about that village center. I did see that in the press release. The fundraising portion now in full swing, and I know that you guys still very much in your infancy and in the building processes of this. $1.2 million village center, going to be decked out with amenities to be helping everybody in the village. But tell me a little bit about the center, some of the things that you're hoping to offer there, and just the timeline of all of it.
Sure thing. So we actually kicked off our fundraising efforts for that village center today. The 1st of November is kind of the big launch. So over the course of between now and next spring, we're going to have a big capital campaign push for that facility. In there will be, boring things like a copy room and a coffee pot and offices, but also like it's where the residents will meet with their case managers. It's where the outside services can come in. There's a couple of spaces for flex space. So one for like counseling or supervised visitation, so folks can have a shot at getting the custody of their kids back, because that's one of those things you don't think about. If you're homeless, the state might take your kids because you don't have a safe place to raise them. So this gives individuals the opportunity to hopefully get visitation back at least. But also things like a space for meeting with a doctor or a dentist, or a veterinarian for our four-legged residents. But also like a big commercial kitchen for either cooking classes or just to throw an event, throw a graduation party for when somebody transitions out of the program, or like, hey, Super Bowl's coming up before long, so we got to put together a little festivities for that. Our headquarters in Kansas City, and the Chiefs somehow keep finding themselves in the Super Bowl, so we all have to either partake or listen to our comrades down in Kansas City talk about it. So like we kind of just go with it. But also, all the things that make an organization function just will be in that building. It's kind of the heart of the village and gives everybody, the things they need to heal and to move through the program.
Why do you think VCP has been able to help so many, and what does that success mean to you as you try to build that same type of thing in South Dakota?
Well, I think we try not to overcomplicate things here. Like, we don't duplicate services. We don't have layers of bureaucracy. Like, we do what's right. And the things that, you always like, the obvious things, like if a person doesn't know where they're going to sleep at night, they have no hope of dealing with their demons. Like, those demons might even be a result of living on the street. So like giving folks, this opportunity to set their own goals and to work with us to overcome those things is huge. Our ability to do what's right and what's not easy, it's the right thing to do. And the fact that it works, like there's no coincidence that VCP is expanding, because it works. Communities across the country want their own village because they know what they're doing now ain't cutting the mustard. Like, our village in Kansas City is 5 acres and 49 tiny houses and all the services that come along with it. Like, Sioux Falls is a much smaller community. We're a population of about 250,000 people. And our community is building a village of 25 tiny houses with wraparound services. And, that's a lot for a community that size. But Sioux Falls is a regional hub. Like, folks that need anything in our region come here, whether it's shopping or logistical transportation, pass through this community. And folks from smaller communities that might not have services or resources when you're down and out end up here. And our homeless population is growing fast. And our community is taking that very seriously. And that's why you see this investment in what, by all measures, is a small city.
He is Eric Gage. He's the executive director of Veterans Community Project in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Eric and his team having the first 3 veterans move into the tiny homes on September 28th, and I'm sure there will be many more in the future. Eric, continued success to you and your team. You have a great Veterans Day as well. If I don't get a chance to talk to you before that, I got to mention that as well. And continue all the great work up there in South Dakota.
I appreciate it, man. It's been great.
And that was Landline Magazine staff writer Ryan Witkowski. You can support the VCP by contributing to Truckers for Troops. Call 816-229-5791 or go to ooida.com. Landline Now will be back in a moment.
Thank you from my heart to all of our military servicemen and women for your service and many sacrifices that you made for us to keep us safe.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one, That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. There are a number of critical questions you need to answer in order to run a successful trucking business. Among the most important of those questions are, where's the freight going to be and how much is it going to pay? Today, Landline Now senior correspondent Ashley Blackford will bring us answers to both of those important questions with a look at this week's freight markets with the folks from DAT. Here's Ashley now with the report.
Thanks, Mark, and hello once again to Robert Rouse with DAT. How are you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing great, Ashley. Thanks for asking.
Now, over the last few weeks, you had mentioned that we should see some seasonal changes in the market. Has DAT seen that materialize yet?
A little bit. Last week, we saw just over a 9% increase in load volume to just over 1.18 million loads. With loads ticking up last week, we believe that the normal seasonal bump is starting. Based on the past, this week should see a similar volume as last week. And I think the biggest thing everyone is watching is just how much consumer spending happens this holiday season. With the economy how it is, it may go up or it may go down. So we're really looking to see just how much that happens to impact the actual market. When we look at the number of trucks on the DAT load board, they decreased by about 10.4%, down to 361,000 trucks. A decrease of this size is more an indication of a higher load volume than anything else. So that's exactly what we would expect with an uptick in loads last week. And when we look at the overall strength of the spot market last week, we saw load-to-truck ratios increase significantly across all three equipment types. When we look at reefer load to truck ratio, it was mainly boosted by Christmas tree, fall produce, and fresh turkeys and pork shipments ahead of Thanksgiving. Reefer load posts surged by about 24% week over week, slightly higher than the increase that we've typically seen in prior years. Carrier equipment posts were down about 11% week over week, and that resulted in the reefer load to truck ratio spiking by 40% up to 3.98. However, this is still one of the lowest reefer load to truck ratios in the last 7 years. Last, looking at spot markets, the national benchmark broker to carrier spot rates without fuel increased by 1 to 5 cents across all three equipment types. Spot rates are up across the board as seasonality ticks in about 3 weeks from Thanksgiving. Reefer spot rates increased by almost 5 cents per mile last week, the most significantly gained since Mother's Day. So that's really good to see. In the number one state for fresh turkeys, Minnesota, outbound reefer rates actually averaged $2.90 per mile last week. That's up 2 cents per mile week over week and about 11 cents per mile higher than in 2019.
How has the freight market evolved recently in Atlanta, and what are the current trends and challenges that carriers and shippers face?
Yeah, this is a market I talk about pretty often, and it's a really important market in our economy. Atlanta is one of the top 5 freight markets in the entire nation, and is the distribution hub for the entire Southeast. Georgia's comprehensive transportation infrastructure includes the world's most efficient airport, the most extensive rail system in the Southeast, and the nation's fastest growing port. In addition to 3 major interstates, I-20, I-75, and I-85, all traverse the state and all meet in Atlanta. In addition, I-16 serves Georgia's ports and connects the I-75 near Macon, Georgia. These assets, together with miles of secondary highways, allows Georgia-based companies to reach national and international customers very quickly. According to the Georgia Department of Economic Development, more than $900 billion of cargo flows through the state annually. That's a ton. Georgia has a vibrant manufacturing base that manufactures and ships various commodities. Some of my favorite foods actually come out of Georgia. According to FreightSpecialist.com, a recent freight and logistics report indicated that 18% of Georgia's GDP is due to the freight shipping industry. But when we look at freight shipped within Georgia by the numbers, the top 5 commodities shipped in the state are mixed freight, motorized vehicles, electronic consumer goods, machinery, and textile and leather goods. Of all the commodities shipped in the state, over 60% are shipped by freight transportation companies, and over-the-road trucks are the leading method of transportation within Georgia. when we look at freight shipped out of Georgia by the numbers, Georgia's outbound shipments are slightly different. Motorized vehicles are Georgia's most shipped commodity for outbound truck freight by about at 14% of the total volume. That is because Ford, General Motors, Honda, and Kia all have manufacturing facilities within Georgia. I know when you think about cars, you usually think about Michigan or some of those other northern states, but Georgia is also another key state within that manufacturing process. Mixed freight comes in at a second at 9%. Electronic consumer goods are next at 8%, and followed by machinery and pharmaceuticals, both at 7% of the total volume that's coming out of there. Freight rates usually climb in the summer when produce shippers compete for the trucks as well. That's usually when we see a little bit of a jump. But also in Thanksgiving, that this time of year, we also see a little bit of a movement there as well. And which states does Georgia ship the most freight to? About 44% of all freight shipped in Georgia is in-state. Following Georgia to Georgia shipments, Georgia ships primarily to Florida. About 8% of all loads go down to Florida. And the next three highest states for shipments from Georgia are Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee at 5% each. Therefore, close to 25% of the truckload freight shipped from Georgia goes to neighboring states, except for South Florida. Most of that freight can reach its destination within about a day. Put another way, most truckload shipments from Georgia travel just under 750 miles.
Do you recommend that owner-operators have a business plan?
Absolutely. It's a crucial thing for every carrier to have. If you did not create one when you started your trucking business, highly suggest to do so now. There are many helpful generic plans on the internet that can be used and adapted. I know OOIDA has some great resources on this topic as well. It's been a part of some of their previous trainings. While business structure and taxes are a main part of the business plan, I highly suggest spending time on types of services you're offering and marketing. When brokers or shippers are looking for carriers that they work with, you want to think about what separates you from the rest. A couple things to think about when creating your differentiation plan. Using technology to stand out. This can be anything from tracking to communication methods. That's a great way for a broker or shipper to see you as somebody different than just your run-of-the-mill van carrier. Another way is more and more shippers are having their boards ask for an environmental impact of their shipping methods. And that's something that is being pushed down all the way down to the carriers. So as new technology is released, look for opportunities to add those to your business. I'm not saying jump on every train that comes out, but look for opportunities in what makes sense for your specific trucking business. Those are going to be great opportunities for you to set yourself apart and help those brokers or shippers go back to their boards and saying, yes, we're looking at our environmental impact. In addition, even if you have a business plan, you should consider updating it every so often, especially for 2024. So much has happened and changed since the pandemic that worked in 2020, 2022, or even this year may have been modified, and you have to go back and relook at how you're operating to make sure you're operating at your most efficient. Most analysts call for an improved freight market at some point in 2024. However, none can predict how robust that market will actually be when it gets here, or whether rates will really rebound substantially. So it's really important in a difficult time in the industry. So either developing a business plan or reviewing your current one will help you as you move forward to just continue to improve your business every single day.
If our listeners want more information, where can they go for that?
Absolutely. You can get the latest rate information at dat.com/trendlines. Or look for our weekly market updates on the DAT blog. They're published every Wednesday. Also, check out and subscribe to the DAT IQ channel, where our analytics and forecasting teams take a deep dive into the freight markets each week.
All right, Robert, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley.
That was Robert Rouse with DAT. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. Once again, you can call 816-229-5791 or go to ooida.com to take part in the 2023 OOIDA Truckers for Troops Telethon. That's our show for today. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.